The New Frontier. Thanks for watching. Along the Kansas dirt roads traveled a family of settlers with their two beautiful and strong Andalusian horses, shipped over from the wild lands of Spain. The horses effortlessly trampled the dirt beneath them as they pulled a brand new covered wagon with strong, oak-made wheels. The father of the family had a determined twinkle in his eye because a new life was on the horizon. They were making their way west to the parts of the country that have not yet been braved by man. Only by beasts and those willing to devolve themselves into beasts to survive. He was different and uncompromising. He was willing to give his family a new life away from the influence of Massachusetts and Virginia. The year before, 1818, the father had heard that Illinois was the newest state to be added to the new United States. He figured that the government was only going to keep expanding and wanted to be ahead of the curve. His wife and children were anxious at first, but they were adapting to the changes. In the back of the covered wagon sat the man's wife, with his son and daughter. The son was lying on the lap of the mother as the strong oak wheels cut through the soft dirt. She couldn't imagine how he could sleep through all the bumps but thought it best to leave him asleep. The daughter had a typical life back in New York, full of friends and influence. Needless to say, she was the most upset by the transition. The daughter sat in silence while she watched the father steer the horses out of the way of a large rock or slightly whip them to pick up speed. She thought the whipping of the horses as unnecessary. There had to be a better way to go vast distances. After being in the wagon all day, they passed the final settlement in Kansas. It wasn't as if others had not traveled west of the Kansas expanse, but they rarely settled past that settlement. The horses need water, could you do so while I figure out where we are? The father asked his wife. She nodded as she woke up her son to disembark the covered wagon. The daughter followed her mother and brother. As discontent as she was, she loved the horses, and would attend to them whenever the family took a break. The father made his way into a saloon that had been hastily put together. He didn't drink but figured that would be the best place to get information. "Howdy," the bartender said. The stench of the sarsaparillas flowed into his nose like the fumes of gasoline. "Hello, how far to undiscovered territory?" The bartender poured a drink for the man, to which he waved away. "Well, 'bout half a day's ride, I suppose," the bartender replied. Half a day, that was all that was left to a new life. "Thank you much." He hurried out of the saloon to escape the rowdiness of other travelers. By the time he made his way back to the wagon, his wife and daughter had already hooked the horses back up to the yoke. "Can we go yet?" the young son mumbled. The father was getting tired himself. He considered staying in town for the night. "Are you ready, dear?" With a slight nod and a dismissal of the thought of staying in town, they were back on the dirt road. The son quickly fell back asleep, this time on his sister's lap. He snored and mumbled about as the sister tried to get in the right light to read her book. The sun was almost completely down. The wife climbed into the front seat next to her husband, since she no longer had to worry about waking her son. "So, did you find out where we're going?" she asked. The bartender in the saloon said it's about a half a day's ride to undiscovered territory. "How much food and water do we have left from our stop in Kentucky?" She looked back into the wagon to do an estimate in her head. She saw that her daughter had given up and fell asleep with her young brother on her lap. "I'm not sure, perhaps a week's worth or so," she commented. The father didn't say anything, he just kept his eyes on the direction in front of him. The stars were starting to glisten in the void of night, which helped the family find their way. "Do you think we should have stayed at that settlement?" the father asked, looking for reassurance. "I couldn't tell you. We're following you on this one, honey, for better or worse." She was sure that what they were doing was the right thing. They had to move out of New York, it was just getting too complicated to raise a family. They kept driving through the night, with the father steering the wagon and the mother teasing him about his need for adventure. The children stayed asleep in the back, with the brother dreaming of pirates and their rebellion and the sister dreaming of home and her friends. Sooner than any had expected, the dark black of night became the purple haze of dawn, which became the warm glow of day. The brightness of the sun glared through the back of the covered wagon and onto the boy's face. "Where are we?" the son muttered as he wiped his eyes. "We don't know, this is uncharted territory, my boy," the father responded. Wonder blew through the son's mind at the sight of the mountains in front of them. They had the Appalachian Mountains in the east, but they paled in comparison to these behemoths. The son excitedly woke up his sister to look at the mountains, but she wanted to sleep as long as she could. "What do you say? You want to live out here, somewhere?" the father asked as he messed up the boy's long hair. "Yeah. But, I don't see any water or anything, and where would we get food?" Without saying anything, the mother pointed out to a field that seemed to stretch past the horizon. In it, there were buffalo and cows slowly grazing through the grass. The boy was once again amazed, and finally managed to pester his sister into looking at the animals with them. "Now all we need is to find water, like a lake or river," the mother explained to her son. The road started getting harder on the wagon, and the oak wheels that were brand new a day ago had become worn by the sharp edges of the earth. Nevertheless, the father felt that he was so close to finding a home for his family. A place where his wife could have a garden, and his daughter could tend to animals that she loved. A place where he could teach his boy to hunt, just as his father did. Passing their third towering mountain, the wheels of the wagon started wobbling with every snap of the whip made. The snap of the whip must have been too forceful on the horses, because the left horse jerked to the left even more and one of the wheels of the wagon broke off. The horses skid to a complete stop as they felt the wagon dragging behind them. "Well, this is a good place as any, I suppose," he decided. The family didn't have the money to stock up on extra wooden wheels, so they were stuck settling in the sandy prairie they had stopped in. The mother and the children disembarked when it was evident that they were going nowhere. "Are you sure there is no way to fix the wagon?" the daughter asked, already annoyed by the bright sun. The father attempted to miraculously piece 3 parts of the wheel together while the mother and children started unloading supplies. "This is impossible." Behind the family, a large mountain stretched to the heavens and presided over the land like God. This inspired the man, and he liked the idea of settling this area even more. In front of the broken wagon, there was a cliff overlooking a valley of trees and flowers. There were creeks flowing through the land and wild broncos stampeding across the field. To the north, there were formations of rock that struggled to not give into gravity from centuries of erosion. The man saw this as an act of rebellion against God. How dare a large boulder keep from falling over by a sliver of attachment at its base? The area was astounding, the true epitome of the natural world. There was only one name the man could give to such a sight, the Garden of the Gods. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, or subscribe if you liked the video.